Welcome to the Roots Recap. This is Midweek Madness with Patrick, and today I have a very special guest with us.
Hey everybody, I'm Tim. You probably know me from elsewhere on the YouTube channel. You're active. You've definitely seen me there. And I do think we have quite a number of things to talk about today. We've had quite a wild week. So, Patrick, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, at first, I would like to talk about oil. I think that's been probably the biggest topic on everybody's chest. It's in
Yeah.
the news, it's all over the place, and a couple interesting things happened in the last couple days. So, the IEA is seeking to control oil prices by releasing 60 million barrels of oil from their stores. The UAE calls on OPEC to pump more, which is quite important, and also the
Hmm.
United States has banned Russian oil.
Wow. That's quite a solution to the supply problem we've been facing. Oh my gosh. And for all of our avid listeners and viewers out there, you've definitely heard us talking about a big supply and demand problem that we're sort of experiencing with oil and energy. And now that the International Energy Agency is calling to release more oil, there's almost confirmation that we are in a bit of an energy problem right now. We need to increase supply. Supply has been cut off by one of the global powers, and we need to make up for it some way, right?
Right. Russia is a major oil producer, and that's part of the reason that California has seen the brunt of increases in price.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to get more of their oil from Russia, which is closer, easier to import from there. So, yeah, it's a big deal, and I think it's really interesting that the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, is calling on OPEC to pump more. Obviously, they have the ability to, but it would be in breach of the oil producing economic countries agreement. And part
Yep.
of also the problem is that OPEC plus, a different agreement, includes Russia, who obviously doesn't want to pump more oil because this is their main way to hurt the West. You know, the sanctions hurt Russia, sure, but obviously they're also hurting Europe and America at
I'm
the same
I'm
time.
surprised that Russia is still included in OPEC.
Well,
That's interesting. I you just
it's OPEC
as you said that, I
plus.
was like, wow. I know, yeah,
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 so
you're
it's a
right.
little bit different, but uh, it's OPEC adjacent basically.
Mm. Oh, okay. I see. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, as a
But
major oil producer, they have some say in that.
yeah, they kind of have to be included. They're like they do affect the global supply. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and the markets were up today with that. Oil also fell. I thought it was an interesting day.
Yeah.
And I think maybe part of the biggest reason was that Zelensky said he was open to compromise, which is pretty important considering that the end of the war would then solve a lot of problems.
It would. Yeah.
Right. So,
And what was Zelensky to compromise on? Did we know what that was?
right, there were three major requirements from Russia to end the war. One was Ukraine must not pursue NATO or EU membership. Ukraine must also recognize
Hmm.
Crimea as Russian territory, and they have to recognize Lugansk and Donetsk as independent states. So, I mean, those are
Interesting.
some pretty big asks,
Yeah,
obviously.
for sure. Hmm.
And Zelensky did say he's not going to accept all of them just on their face. He's open to some compromise there.
Fair. Interesting. Interesting. And I do know that the whole EU membership inclusion, part of, or maybe it was the NATO specifically, but part of the application, you have to not have any active wars on any of your borders.
Right.
And currently, they just simply do not qualify because they're at war with Russia, which is interesting.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
plus, I think that's probably the first thing he would give up in this list. I mean, it's the least amount to ask out of
Yeah.
all of these. The other two are literally conceding territory,
Yeah.
and so those are pretty hard sells.
Yeah, for sure. You know what else is a hard sell? The Amazon stock split that was announced.
Hey, yeah, it was it's an interesting one. It was a good one. The 10K on that was pretty good too. So they still have a vote coming up, but I think it's pretty obvious that that will pass. We also talked about this in a previous podcast where we predicted this, that because Jeff Bezos was
Yes,
leaving,
we did.
um,
Yeah.
that they would eventually do a
Bezos
stock
was
split.
for a very long time against stock splits. Last time he did one with Amazon was right before the .com bubble,
Yeah,
and they basically did their stock split in a couple weeks or months, whatever it was later. There was the huge crash, and uh, having an already reduced share price, it fell even. So it looked really bad on the stock. But hey, you can't time the market all the time, and now that he's gone, I guess the board was more open to the idea.
well, a stock split doesn't fundamentally matter. I think their stock did fall to like $5 a share, but I mean, if it was $20 a share with 1/4 of the shares, it wouldn't really make a difference. But
Yeah,
something
you're
that
right.
does make a difference is they also announced with this a $10 billion stock buyback. Now, this stock buyback will actually
Wow.
replace a previous $5 billion stock buyback that they had
Wow.
already purchased. I think it was a little over $2 billion of stock. So it's now
Hmm.
up to 10 billion that they could repurchase, which is pretty big. I mean, that's 10 billion
It is.
dollars of just influx of cash into the Amazon stock price right along a stock split. So
Yeah.
I think the retail is going to be pretty hot on this, and it will definitely be interesting to see it
I mean, on
unfold.
the news, it's up 5% after hours today. So, I mean, clearly it's liked by retail
Right.
or investors alike.
Yeah. I think the small retail probably is maybe yet to get in. I mean, with
Yeah.
fractional shares though, kind of anybody can get in anymore.
Yeah. I don't know if fractional shares get split though. I think that's dependent on the company.
Yeah. Sometimes they
So
just get
you got
bought
to be
out. It
careful.
depends on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it depends on your broker actually.
Yeah. Well, I do know the company can request not to do fractional shares through a
Hmm.
stock split. So, yeah. And that's just from my jobs previously.
Yeah. And
But
so I mean, it'll be interesting to watch. And with that, I don't think we have much else to talk about that happened over the last day.
yeah.
Um, so I'd like to say I hope you guys enjoyed the pod or the show, and check out our podcast, our Discord, links in the below. Hit that like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah.